Okay, so the question for those in the back, she supports women on their fertility journey, but that's island B for them. Yeah, that's the thing they want. Island B, I have a baby, I'm fertile, it's great. But, and they're on island A, have tried to conceive but can't. So that's what they want, but you can't promise it. So what happens if you have a result that you can't promise? This is where the point of view stuff comes in very heavily. So, because then, I mean, you can still have the headline be something in the order of, you know, are you struggling to conceive, you know, and yeah, basically, and you want to have a baby. This is where, you know, a signature talk and workshop can be great, because then you can say, look, here's the deal. And this gets deeper into point of view. If you go on my website, there's a webinars thing, webinars page that I sell, and there's one called the advanced one. It's about $100, and it's 5 different webinars. But in one of them, there's the 3 cases. Or if you go on YouTube, there's the short course, Tad Hargrave on YouTube, 3 cases. And the 3 cases that we're trying to make with point of view. Because when I'm generalizing a bit when I say point of view marketing is about making the case for something. Yeah, there's actually 3 cases within that case. It's the diagnosis, the prognosis, and the prescription. Those are the 3 cases we have to make. So I'm not going to go deep into it because there's other places you can find it. But the diagnosis is just, you're on island A. Here's why I think you're on island A. This is the context. This is what's happening underneath the hood. Your car is making an unsettling noise, but you don't know why. Here's why. Here's what's happening. Because when people are in pain, they tend to need 3 things, and these 3 in this order. First, they need some empathy, the most important. And this is what marketing is. Island A and Island B, the acknowledgement of these is just empathy, you know? Hey, are you on Island A and it sucks in this way and you want to be on Island B? Yeah, that's me. Just that they feel gotten. The second, so empathy is first. Number 2, context. Right? Why? Because the being in pain is actually not the worst thing. That's really, most of us at a certain point, we learn how to grit and bear the pain. The thing that pushes it over the edge and really breaks people is you don't know why you're in pain. Because then you don't know what to do. And then you feel powerless and anger and, you know, bitterness, and it's because you're now directionless. And people get what's called learned helplessness at that point. Because we don't know why we're in pain. That's the hardest part. You know, why am I dating the same person again? I thought this person was different. I did everything different, and still, why did the disease come back? Why am I broke again? How did I turn into my parents as I'm parenting? You know, all these things we don't know. And the lack of knowing the context of that, the diagnosis part, yeah, it's very hard. Which is why sometimes you go to a workshop and they say, here's why. Oh my God. Now that I see the diagnosis, I can do something, right? And the third thing people need is guidance. Just some next steps. What do I do from here? Okay, but back to the 3 cases. Diagnosis, this is the context fundamentally. Here's why it hurts. Here's why you're stuck on island 8 and you can't seem to get up. Number 2, the prognosis. And this is in answer to the question, the prognosis, right? The diagnosis answers a 2-word question, very simple. What's happening? I'm in this pain, but what's happening? Why am I in this pain? Prognosis answers a very simple question too. What's likely? And this is where we've got to have a very candid, honest conversation with them. What's likely in terms of the best case and the worst case scenario? Look, worst case scenario is you will never be able to conceive. It's just not in the cards for you this lifetime. You know, for a lot of reasons, you may not be able to conceive. Best case scenario is you can't, you know, but this is the range of possibility we're looking at here. This is the percentage of likelihood given what we're seeing. So you can give people a very clear prognosis, like this may not happen. Yeah. And then there's the prescription, here's what I would do. Now in the diagnosis, the context of what's going on, this is where we often break down, here's like the 6 elements of fertility. Here's the 6 factors, yeah? And this is what we're going to be looking at. Okay, but what does this have to do with they can get there or not? George Cow and I, a colleague of mine, both agree on this. Sometimes you just can't promise the result, but what you can promise is, number one, I care. I can promise that. I can promise I'll be there for you. 2, I can promise a certain approach. I can promise you're going to get my help, my hand-holding in this approach, which I think is the best way to get from A to B. Again, that's what marketing is. We're just saying, look, okay, you're struggling with your fertility. There's a lot of approaches. There's the IVF. There's all sorts of drugs. There's hormones. There's past life regression. There's all these things. This is my take on it. I'm just saying, based on what I know in your situation, this is what I do. This is what I think is really at the root of it. And if that resonates with you, we can work together. I can't promise the result. The result is out of either of our hands. What we can do is change the odds. We can get things working in your favor. And then what's going to happen is going to happen. But I can promise a process. I can promise my care. I can promise a certain amount of time. I can promise a certain structure. And that's all I can promise. It's very trust building to be able to say that. What we don't want to say in marketing is trust me. You notice that it's the least trustworthy thing you can say. That's what con men say. Hey, trust me, trust me. That's what used cars people say. Yeah, politicians, right. You look at the etymology. It's good to go back to etymology. You really understand where words come from, the deeper meaning. Like politics. Poly, that's many, that's science. Ticks, blood-sucking parasites. The language will not let you down. Yeah, but so saying trust me, nobody trusts. But instead in marketing, with point of view marketing, what we're saying is trust this. Work with me or not. And that's an important proviso I'd put in. In the point of view marketing, it's not a sort of covert, here's why to hire me. It's just saying, look, if you're trying to get from island A to island B, let me make the case for this approach, whether you hire me or not. That's the phrase there, which I recommend just using. Whether we work together or not, whether you hire me or not, whether you come to this program or not, here's the approach I recommend, and here's why. Let me make the most solid, and of course, if you resonate with this and you want my help personally, here's how. And it's important in some cases to say, I just cannot guarantee this. Sometimes you will feel like, no, if you do these things, here's your part of the bargain, here's mine, we'll get you there. And if not, I'll refund the money. I've seen that. Sometimes there are cases where it's enough of the variables are in the control of both parties that if you do your part, I do mine, this is not a problem. I won't even break a sweat helping you get there. But this is also, you see where the filtering comes in. So filtering is, I feel comfortable guaranteeing this result if certain things are true on your end. Because I got control over my end. But we need to look at certain things on your end to even see what's possible. So we got to do the diagnosis first. So here's the major factors of fertility. How many, well, you know what they are. Do you have this? Don't you have this? Were you on this medication at any point in your life? If so, for how long? Because there may be certain things where it's like, there was an amazing book called The Lions of Al-Rassan by Guy Gavriel Kay. He's a Canadian author. And there's this amazing, it's sort of set in the Middle East. And the doctors, the physicians, there was an ethical deal. And if they could not help somebody, and this is fictional, but it's a beautiful understanding. If they could help somebody, they would, but if they would say yes. But if they didn't help them, there were consequences for the doctor. But if they couldn't, they would just say, with this illness, I will not contend. And that's worth just having in your back pocket. Okay, having done the diagnosis, I can't help you. I'm not the one. I just don't know how. I cannot ethically take your money. Based on what I'm seeing here, this is a no-go. That doesn't mean we don't have to put a hex on people. We can just say, with this illness, I will not contend. Maybe somebody else could. I hope you find them. I just can't help you. I can't help move the needle enough that it would make sense given the money you're spending. You're this old, You have this history of medications. You have this much stress and trauma in your life. You've I can't see a way there myself. Let me refer you to somebody else. Does that help at all?